cat is moving at 18 meters per second when it accelerates at 4 meters per second squared for 2 seconds. What is the new velocity? We have to find the new velocity. Now for this type of questions, it relates to horizontal motions. Horizontal motions is when an object is moving horizontally on a straight line with a constant acceleration. And these equations are used to describe horizontal motion, where S is the displacement or distance in meters, V is the final velocity in meters per second, U is the initial velocity in meters per second, and A is the acceleration in meters per second squared. Sorry, let me write squared, 2. And T is time in seconds. Now let's go ahead and work on the question. A cat is moving at 18 meters per second when it accelerates at 4 meters per second squared for 2 seconds. What is its new velocity? Now, to choose the appropriate equations to use, it depends on the question. So, from the question we can see that this equation is much more appropriate to use, since we are given the initial velocity, which is u, 18 meters per second, and we're given the acceleration, which is 4 meters per second, and we're given the time, which is 2 seconds. And we are to find the final velocity, which is v. We have to find the final velocity, the new velocity. And you can see the other 3 equations, it involves displacement, where the question is not involving displacement. So we disregard the other equations. Now we can go ahead and solve the problem. We'll use this equation. V, final velocity, is equal to the initial velocity u plus acceleration multiplied by the time. Now the final velocity is unknown, so we just leave it as v. The initial velocity is 18 meters per second, so we write 18 plus the acceleration is 4 meters per second squared, so we put 4 and then multiplied by the time, which is 2 seconds. So the final velocity is equal to 26 meters per second. The Jamaican bobsled team hit the brakes on their sled so that it decelerates at a uniform rate of 0.43 meters per second squared. How long does it take to stop if it travels 85 meters before coming to rest? Now, when an object is coming to rest, or when an object is at rest, this time an object is coming to rest, so that means the final velocity will be 0. Now for this question, it's proper we use this equation so that we can calculate for the initial velocity. The initial velocity is not given, and then we can substitute into that equation and calculate the time, so that we can calculate the time, because the question is asking for the time, how long. So let's go ahead and solve the problem. V squared is equal to the u squared minus 2, sorry, plus 2as. Now the final velocity, as I've said, it's 0. So we write 0 squared is equal to the initial velocity is unknown. We have to find the initial velocity, and then we will substitute into this equation. So the initial velocity is unknown, u squared, plus the acceleration is 2, sorry, acceleration is, now for the acceleration Now for the acceleration, the question said it decelerates, so it will be a negative acceleration. So negative 0.43, and then the distance it covers is 85 meters. Zero squared is 0. The initial velocity is unknown. We have to find the initial velocity. Plus 2 times negative 0.43 times 85 is negative 73.1. Now when we bring u to the right hand side, it would be negative u squared is equal to negative 73.1. The negative values cancel off. So we take the square root on both sides to solve for u. So when we take the square root on both sides, u, the initial velocity, is equal to 8.55 meters per second. So that's the initial velocity. We need the initial velocity so that we can substitute into that equation and we can solve for t. T for the time. Now we can use this equation since we have already calculated the value for the initial velocity, which is u. So v is equal to u plus a multiplied by t. Now the final velocity is 0. It comes to rest, so it's 0. The initial velocity is 8.55 plus the acceleration is 0.43, negative 0.43, and the time is unknown. We have to calculate for time. Now when we bring 8.55 to the left hand side, we get negative 8.55 is equal to negative 0.43 t multiplied by t. Now we can divide both sides by negative 0.43 to solve for t. Negative 0.43, negative 0.43, and then this one cancel off. The time is equal to negative cancel off. 8.55 divided by 0.43, 8.55 divided by 0.43 will give 19.88 seconds. So the final answer is 19.88 seconds. That's what the question is asking to calculate. Now let's try look at this question. Feel free to pause the video and try this at your home. Two kittens are on opposite side of a field, 250 meters apart. Kitten A runs at a constant speed of 25 meters per second due east. on a collision course with a kitten B, which is traveling west at 12 meters per second. How much time elapsed before the two kittens collide? Now that's the field, and that's kitten A, it's kitten B. Kitten A runs at a constant speed of 25 meters per second. And kitten B runs at 12 meters per second. So we assume that they will meet somewhere here, since kitten A has a higher velocity than kitten B, and the distance is 250 meters apart. Now for that question, we have to calculate the time for kitten A, and then we calculate the time for kitten B, and then we can minus. Now for this question, the displacement is given and the velocities are given, the initial and the final velocities. The initial velocity would be 0 since they start from rest, and the final velocity is given. So let's go ahead and calculate. First we have to calculate for A. So S is equals to 1 on 2. We're using this equation. U plus V multiplied by time. The displacement is 250 meters. It's equals to 1 on 2. The initial velocity is 0 because they start from rest. Initially they have a 0 velocity. Initially they don't have a velocity. So it's 0 plus the final velocity is 25 meters per second. And the time is T. Time is unknown. Now 2 times 250 is 500. So 500, 25 times T is 25T. You got 20 seconds. So it took 20 seconds for kitten A to reach the other side of the field. Now for kitten B, S is 250. Half multiplied by the initial velocity for kitten B is 0, and the final velocity for kitten B is 12 meters per second multiplied by the time. The time is unknown. So 250 times 2 is 500, is equal to 12 T. Divide both sides by 12 and T will be equal to 500 divided by 12, which is 41.67. Now the question asks, how much time elapsed before the two kittens collide? Now the time elapsed before the two kittens collide is, now the time elapsed before the two kittens collide or meet is, we say, time taken for kitten B minus the time taken for kitten A. 41.66 seconds minus Now the time took for kitten B is 41.66 seconds. The time took for kitten B, now the time took for kitten B to reach the other side of the field is 41.66. So 41.66 minus time took for kitten B to reach this side of the field. Sorry, kitten A. So that's 20. So 41.66 minus 20 will give 21.66 seconds. So that's the time elapsed before the two kittens collide. That's the answer.